In this video, we're going to continue to explore Adobe Premiere Pro interface and basic commands. In the previous lesson, we started working with some of the basic features, but mostly we had a panoramic tour of the interface. So we're going to start here from the home page, and I can click on some of these recent files. But right now, I want to show you first that you can access here also the learning material. So if you want to start uh, checking out some of the professional works here. If I click, for example, on one of these, it's going to open up the learning interface, learning workspace, and I can select one of these um, exercise files. So you can see here that it's now downloading and it's finished to download this one here from with an Iceland landscape. And this is the project panel that for some reason is undocked, but we can just dock it wherever we want. So probably here. And down here we have the timeline. So we can click and drag the CTI, current time indicator, go back and forward and see the animation with the text and kind of a graphic logo on top of that. So we can open up these tutorials and exercise. We can just move on, and it's going to tell us, for example, here how to animate. But we're going to cover these topics also in the following lesson. This is just to show you that you also have these other possibility here to learn Premiere Pro. Now, if we go up here on the right side, we can also go in the workspaces. So you can see right now we are in learning mode. There's also a new one called text-based editing, and we're going to check that later. And then we have the ones that we created previously, our own workspaces that we created previously, and then we have essentials also, that it's kind of the standard and it's the one I'm gonna use. And you can also quick export from here and open the progress dashboard, and you can also make it full screen if you want. Now I'm gonna just close this project, so I'm gonna go to File, and when you need to close, you can use this one here without saving, and there we're back in the home page. So I can click Home, and let's create a new project from scratch. So everything starts in here, again, the import section. So right now, what you are visualizing is part of my hard disk where I store things, especially multimedia files. So I can click and drag here, make this bigger, smaller. I can change the visualization time. I think that by default, this is in grid view, and you can also search for something. And for example, in my case, so I don't want to use sample media in this lesson because we already saw this previously. So you know now where to find it. I want to show you how you can get files from your computer. So in my case, I only have one device, one hard disk right here connected, which is also my operative system. Now, if you have more hard disks, is better to store the various source files for your projects. But in this case, I only have one. So if I click here, this is my hard disk. If I want to look for something specific, now in my case, I have a works folder here in my database. So if I click here, I have all the works. So if I want to look for like video, I can just type here in the search and I can go directly to this folder. Now, one thing you can do is just click on the folder and you can just insert all the files contained in that folder inside the new project. Or you can double click, go inside the folder, and just pick the ones you want. So let's say that I want to bring in some videos and some pictures, some static pictures. So I have also here some videos from Iceland. So let's say I want to have this one here, and then I want another video, so two videos. You can check here if there are videos or not by looking at the format. And if you roll over here, it's going to give you also other information about the codec, about the duration, about the frame rate, and the resolution. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but just to show you that you can import different types of files at the same time. So I can select this MP4, and then perhaps I can select here an image, and then maybe here another image, and then another image, and so on. There you go. So once I finish to select, you can also hold the control key or the shift key if you want to select from one to another. And once you're finished, let me just also import another type of file. Just need to switch folder because I want to show you also the difference between a standard JPEG and a PNG. So if I look for this folder here, I have some logos that don't have a background, so they have an alpha channel, so they are PNGs. You can see here PNG. Again, if I roll over, it's going to give me some details. Now you can see that the duration for an image it's 5 seconds, so this is kind of a default setup. We can also change it later, but in this case I'm going to keep it. So I can select, for example, this logo, which is going to be PNG, and I will show you the difference, if you don't already know, of course, from a JPEG to a PNG. Now, these are really basic steps that we're doing. So if you're more expert, you can just jump ahead. Otherwise, we're going to keep it nice and slow and explain everything step by step. So this is why I'm explaining to you also the difference between JPEG, PNG, and video files, and so on. Now, if I go on the right side, so on the left side, this is where I get my resources, my files. On the right side, this is where I can choose if I want to organize the media, so add everything to a new bin, or if I wanna like copy medias, or if I want to create automatically a new sequence and just give a name here. Now I don't want to do any of that. I just want to start from scratch. And language here for the transcription, auto detection, or just pick English, or do automatic transcription. And then another thing you can do is use a template. Now we already used a template before. So the template is basically a set of folders, subfolders, and some starting settings that you can use. So I don't want to use any of that. Just gonna go to none. And once I'm ready, you can see here all the different files that I've been selecting from my hard disk. I can select it from the cloud, from OneDrive. I can select it from the sample media or from any other folder like the download folder and so on. So first part, importing, let's do it and click on create. And there we go. Now it creates the new project. We can see here that we have no sequences on the timeline, so it's basically empty. It's telling also drop media here to create a sequence. And this is one way we can actually create a new sequence because we don't have it right now. Also program, it's empty. Source, well, we need to select a clip. So if I, for example, double click on a clip like this one here, I can move this back and forward, and this is going to be a preview of this clip. Now, if I like this clip and I want to insert it in my sequence, now I can either create a sequence first, or I can just click this, drag it inside, and that's going to create a sequence right there. And we can recognize the sequences from this icon. I can also change visualization. I can have this type of visualization, and now there we go, it appears. This is the sequence. So I can call this like first sequence. Okay, so this is one way we can create a sequence, and this sequence here is going to be perfectly matching the frame per second, the duration, and everything else from the original file, the source file that I've chosen to create the sequence. And there's the sequence. So if I click and drag, now I can see it both in the program panel and in the source panel. So these two are really similar, but don't mistake them, because one is the source file and one is whatever we're going to create with that source file. So here, for example, I can continue to drag and drop, like click and drag other stuff from the project panel directly into the composition here, into the sequence. So this is now a combination of video and images. So another thing we can do, let me just delete. You can also delete the sequence. So If you right click, also you can access to many other options like cut, copy, clear, duplicate, rename, etc., etc. Now, if you want to delete, you can actually just click on this little clear button here, or you can just click on the delete key on your keyboard. Now, another way you can create a sequence is to right click, and let me do it on a image. So right click on an image, and then you can do new sequence from clip. So whether it's an image or a movie, you can start creating your sequence also from here. So if you click, there you go. That's going to be the new one. Now, as you can see, it's going to match the size of, if you expand this, the project panel, you'll find other information up here. So these are all like columns, and that you can also customize. So you can see this is now a sequence that is as big, so it's 4K, so it's as big as the image. So when you use an image or a video to create a sequence, that's gonna inherit the most important settings. So we can call this like sequence from clip, and that's another way you can create a sequence. Now, instead of deleting them, you can also just close them and just open up another one. Or perhaps again, just click and drag and create one starting from a file. So sequence, let's call this sequence from dragging. And let me make this a little bit bigger. Now, another way is to create the sequence from zero. And you can use, if you go down here, you have a lot of buttons. Now, this one here is to make the project writable or read-only mode. And this here is to switch the view from previews to like details and names. And here you can also check the freeform view, which is kind of a preview mode in a way. And this is also showing you which files have also audio. So this represents video. This other little icon is the audio. You can also search or find things in this if you have a lot of assets. You can also create a new bin. Now, let me go back to the list view and create a new bin. So if you don't use a template, you can create your own organization here. You can manage all the files by creating bins, so groups and subgroups and so on. So I can call one, for example, images, and I can drop in all, I can select this, click and drag it and place it inside. Or I can just multiple select, so holding shift or holding control, I can do multiple selection, click and drag. So now this is more organized. I can expand this group to see what's inside or not. Now this is a graphic, so I'm gonna create a new bin for this and just call it graphics. And so I'm gonna click the logo, drag it inside the graphics. And then I have movies, so I can also like select these two, right click, and I can do new bin from selection and call these movies or movie clips, wherever. And these are sequences. So I'm just gonna keep them outside. So another way when you go here next to the new bin is to do new item. And from new item, you can create many things. And among these, you can create a sequence. So this is what happens when you create a sequence from scratch. You need to decide all these settings. So you can either go for a preset from here, or you can go into the settings and decide everything yourself. And also here, you can decide how many tracks, and if you want BR video, so some advanced settings. Let's keep it basic. So in the presets, we have social media presets, like for example, a square format, like 1K and 1080 times 1080. And then we have like ultra HD 4K or just HD and so on. So you can pick any one of these. Let's go for this, for example, and let's call this like sequence social preset, and that's gonna create a new sequence. Or I can just click here and just go in the settings and go one by one. So editing mode, you can see I can start by picking one of these. So let's go for like HDV, this one here. So P, and then you can decide the frame rate. So let's make it 25 frames per second. And the pixel aspect, you can change it. You can change here the time code, the audio, sample rate, the width and the height. You can also unlink this, reset, create whatever you want, and etc, etc. So you can customize this as much as you can. If you want, and just create another sequence. So you either create a sequence by yourself, or you can just drop in some of these files, and that will generate the sequence settings automatically. So let's go here in sequence social preset, for example. So when I use this, double click, and there you go. So you can also visualize more than one sequence, so you can close the others and just concentrate on this one here, sequence social preset. And let's use the images. So let's say I want to bring in an image. So I'm going to click and drag. You can either drag it here directly, and that's my image, which also has been cropped. So we can adjust and transform the file, but we're going to see this later. Let me go back, Control Z, or I can select all of them, click and drag and place them like this. And this is going to generate essentially a sequence of image. So if I click and drag this, we can see the image sequence. Now, all of these are 5 seconds because this is how they are set up by default. Each one of these images will last for 5 seconds. And what happens here, because I have more tracks, so what happens if I, for example, place a movie on top right here of the image? So if I click, now I can see the images, and now this is the movie, which is going to completely override the images, completely overlap, because these tracks, they work as layers in Photoshop, for example. So the top layer will go above of the previous one. Here, V1 is going to be at the bottom, and then you have V2, V3. You can also decide not to use the videos, for example, if you deactivate them. So if I click and drop this is only going to bring the audio. So I'm going to see the image, but with the audio from the video. So you can decide if you want to use video and audio together, or just the video, just the audio. You can also lock and protect these tracks if you want. So essentially they work as Photoshop layers. And we're gonna come back to the timeline, to the program, to the source in another lesson. I'm just gonna go quick here and explain to you. I'm gonna focus more on the importing and on the project panel in this lesson. Now I want to bring in my logo, and I want to show you the difference between logo, an image, and a JPEG and a PNG or a video. So if I also bring here, if I click and drag and bring up this image, you can see now it's gonna override everything else, including the video. But if I place, instead of this image, let me delete this. So now I can see the video. And be careful not to be in the source, but you want to be in the program, because this is going to be your final sequence. So if I drop in the logo, oops, Control Z. If I drop in the logo here, there you go. We can see that we can see through the logo because it doesn't have a background. This is the beauty of PNGs. So they're excellent for anything that is going to be graphics, I think. Now, if we don't see the full image, what we can do quickly, we can do a lot of things, but one quick thing we can do is to right click, and also from here we can access other features. So I can replace this with another source. I can change the speed and other stuff we're gonna see later. And also I can scale it to the frame size. So now it fits inside my sequence, inside my project, which is good for this occasion. But again, we're gonna see also other things later. So what I'm trying to say here is, depending where you click, you can see that with the right click, you always find like extra commands that you can use. So everywhere you click with the right click, you're gonna see that you can find other stuff that you can set. Another easy way we can import files in Premiere Pro is directly going into the folder where we stored our files and then just drag and drop from there. So I'm gonna look for the folder photo and video, and there we go. So from here I can select one of these or multiple files. So let's say I select these 5 and also like a video here. So if I click and drag, I can insert them directly into my project panel, so not immediately into my sequence. Or else I can insert it directly into my sequence. And that's gonna automatically also create those files here in the project panel. Now, what it's telling us is that the clip doesn't match the sequence settings, meaning that the clip that I am importing is different in terms of, let's say, frame per second or uh, let's say resolution or whatever. So do we want to change the sequence to match the clip settings or keep the existing settings? So that's a big decision. So let's say that we want to adapt the sequence to the clip. So in that case, we want to click on the change sequence settings. Otherwise, we can just say keep existing settings and that's it. So you can see now that we have a sequence of images and then again a video, which is this one here. I can double click here and again expand this, and I can like, put this here and perhaps arrange them as a sequence, and then I can start to pick these files from here. Let me just go back to the original. We're gonna talk about that in the following lesson. Now here you have automate to sequence, and in this case I can select some images here. So let's do like this, and then now you can see it's on. So if I click there, it's going to create my sequence. So you can change the ordering into the selection order or the sort order in terms of, listing. The placement sequentially, so it's going to create a sequence, and clip overlap 30 frames, and then you can also change the duration of a still clip, and also you can use transitions, which are set by default. So you need to change the default if you want to change the default transition. If you have videos, you can also ignore the audio or ignore the video as well. But in this case, we're going to keep everything. And let's just hit OK. And you can see that now it created a sequence inside the original, the previous sequence. So if I click and move forward, you can see that we also have transitions between one clip and the other. So if you want also this extra transition effect, this is another way you can create your sequence. So this is basically what we can do with the project panel. So importing files, visualize the different files, visualize the information, and you can also increase here the size to see better. Also here in the previews, you can also preview even from here if it's a video, so you can just select it, and these are all static images. So let me go back. To go back here in the navigation, just click here and let's go back to movies. Okay, so now if I want to preview them, there you go. I can just move around here with my mouse. And also if you click in the project here, you can close the panel, undock the panel. You can dock it back into position. You can save the project, create new bins, rename, change here from also icon and list. And you can also add a preview area up here, which could be handy because here in the list, I don't see the preview, while if I activate the preview here, now I can see it. And also the thumbnails here. Now this is going to be a little bit more heavy in terms of visualization, but I think it's better because we can have a full picture of what we're doing. You can also change the font size from large to medium or to small, depending on your need. And basically that's pretty much it. And you have all the other commands here that you can test, but these are the most important. Now, I want to leave you with one last important thing you need to know. Now, everything you import in the project, because now I can save this as a project, I'm going to call this lesson 2, and there you go. But you can see the size of this. This is not big. If you think that inside here we have videos, images, now this is a really small file size. Why? Because in the Premiere Pro file, we don't actually have those assets. Those assets are linked, and they are linked into my project. They are brought in my project by links. So they are not actually there. They are still in their folders, but they are connected to this file. So what this means? This means that you need to always bring your source files with you all the time. Otherwise, they will not be displayed if you just, bring with you just the project without the source files. Because yes, we can visualize them here, but they're not actually here. They are linked to an external folder. And let me just show you what's going to happen here. For example, if I drop in my logo from the graphics folder. So if I click and drag this here. So right click. Also from here, you can right click and do reveal in Explorer. So this is going to show me where this is in my computer. So it's going to open up the folder. And if I change the name of this, let's call this like logo blue without this name. So if you change the name of the asset, the name of the folder where that asset is contained, or just change the position of this into another folder in your computer, or if you delete this, that's going to be a missing file. So if I now close this and go back, there you go. You can see this red screen that represent a missing connection, a missing link. And usually it's going to show you this panel that is going to tell you that you have a missing media. Now, missing media doesn't mean necessarily that you delete it, but again, you can just have changed the name or something like that, or change position in your computer. You can see that it's looking for this file with this name and this format inside this folder, and it's not finding it. So you have some options here. You can do just, okay, I don't care, and delete or offline, or you can locate that. So if you click on locate, it's going to open up this other panel, and you can just locate the source, the source file that you want. In this case, is this logo blue. Well, I can also pick another one if I want to replace it, but I want to use the same one. So double click or say okay, and there you go, back in the composition. And now I can also like right click and make it scale to frame size. So this is why it's important to have everything organized where you're working with videos, especially with Premiere Pro, because everything needs to stay where it is. And if you want to move to another computer, make sure you copy the entire folder with all the source files in it. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of missing assets, and that's not going to be good. So we're just getting started here with Premiere Pro. We discover many features of the project panel, which is kind of the starting point in a way, because it's kind of importing. It's like the import screen at the beginning. So here we can just click and drag and drop from the computer. We can open files from here. We can create new sequences and define what's going to be in our sequence. And then we can create here in the timeline our first editing, and then preview it here in the program panel. So we're getting started in Premiere Pro. We will continue in the following lessons. So please subscribe to the channel if you want to stay updated. And also please join the channel as a supporter if you want to support us in our work. And check our other video courses and video guides and all the educative content that we have in the channel. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next lesson.